It has been a crazy week for Nintendo and the newly announced Switch 2, so I figured that I would talk about 4 primary things in this video. I'm sure many of you are questioning if you could afford the Switch 2 when it releases in June, but let's start with the game revealed at the latest Nintendo Direct. Mario Kart World is the system's app killer and will be available at launch as either a standalone game or a pack-in game to the Switch 2. And this is insane for a game like this to be open world. They could have just made a straight-up sequel, like Mario Kart 9, but Nintendo was probably like, this is hands down our #1 franchise. Let's go all out on it. Now I am not going to defend the $80 price. That is price gouging. But they know that tens of millions of consumers will still buy it. So by no means are they ashamed of doing it. It's just like Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Nintendo knew for certain that millions of customers would pay an extra $10, and 10 million did in the first 24 hours of the game's release. They have been squeezing every last drop out of Mario Kart 8 because they knew they would have been foolish not to. They will likely be updating this game until they're ready to release the next Nintendo console. Expect new content every year, like new characters, new worlds, new vehicles, new outfits, maybe special events, maybe other Nintendo characters in the new few years. I was also blown away with game chat. It's really cool how well a game like Mario Kart World will run with all these cameras and feeds playing simultaneously. Personally, I don't think I would buy one of these microphones, but I can certainly see YouTubers relying on game chat a lot. Or how about speedrunning? Donkey Kong Bonanza. This is practically Mario Odyssey 2, just with a not as impressive trailer. It's so refreshing to see Nintendo finally making a mainline Donkey Kong game rather than outsource to a Western dev. DK is just savage in this trailer. I will say, however, is that I don't think I can get used to how he runs. They should fine-tune his running animation. Other than that, there likely is still a lot more we have yet to see from this game. It's crazy that it's only going to release a month later than Mario Kart World. Kirby Air Riders. When I first saw the title of this game in the trailer, I only had one thought come to mind. The future of Super Smash Bros. Looks good. I rented Kirby Air Ride from Blockbuster. I remember it was definitely fun to play, but not necessarily a game I wanted to actually buy and own after renting it. Hopefully Kirby Air Riders is going to be expanded upon from the predecessor. So will the next Super Smash Bros. Still come out? Sure. Loyalists are under the assumption that Sakurai owns Super Smash Bros. And that the series can't go on unless he's the director, and we have to wait until he is finished with Kirby Air Riders. This is absolutely false. Nintendo does not answer to Sakurai. When he left HAL Laboratories, they didn't cancel Kirby. They hired a new director. The show has to go on. Nintendo could very well appoint a new director for Smash Bros. If they want to release a new installment early in the console's lifespan and Sakurai isn't available. Also, it's very possible that Sakurai is working on both games simultaneously. A director can certainly do that. What people don't realize is that directors don't need to do a lot of labor. They oversee the whole project. And that is probably what is the likeliest outcome, being that he's directing both games and that Kirby Air Riders will just so happen to finish first. Ideally, I think Nintendo needs to hire another person to direct Super Smash Bros., but I am predicting that the next Smash Bros. Is being worked on by Sakurai. Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. If this isn't even a free game, why even make it? This is essentially a tech demo. Why make people pay for what's basically a guide or tutorial on how the Switch works? 1 to 2 Switch at least felt like it had a purpose, in which it was a local multiplayer game. Drag and Drive. Wow. I think this game is going to get a lot of outrage from mobility-impaired people. It looks fun if you ask me, but I hope there is a lot more depth to it. The GameCube games. Cool, I guess. I own all 3 of them. I am hoping there are more in the future. If EA isn't willing to re-release SSX Tricky or put in on PlayStation Plus or on Xbox's backward compatibility program, maybe they will release it in this lineup. Ubisoft was seemingly absent from the presentation. Oftentimes, there's a big Ubisoft presence during important Nintendo Directs, but not this time, apparently, outside of an announced port of Star Wars Outlaws. Cyberpunk 2077, Elden Ring, Street Fighter 6, the next Madden, the next WWE 2K, people are excited about these games coming to the Switch too. Not only is Nintendo catching up with Sony and Microsoft on graphical capabilities, however, but Sony and Microsoft are looking to make their consoles playable on handhelds, which means yet again, Nintendo needs to think of another innovation with the next console after this. Now let's talk about the price and the tariff situation. $449 was the base price before the tariff announcement. Nintendo knew that $449 was going to be a price that the public felt would be too high. They never even mentioned the price at all in the Direct. Why does it cost this much? Simple. They want to maximize profits. They want to be able to make $15 billion in revenue each year. And I think many consumers are willing to pay that, despite all the complaints. And what I find absolutely hilarious is that while Nintendo raises its prices, it's apparently not a problem until Trump is involved. That's hilarious. Let's get this out of the way. Trump's goal is not to make tech companies suffer, or make their consumers suffer. It's all about America getting its fair share when it comes to the workforce. Because many countries have tariffs on America, and there are many ways their companies that work overseas are cutting corners over companies working in America. So Nintendo makes their hardware in China and Vietnam for peanuts. That is how Nintendo has been able to make a lot of money on their hardware, but Trump argues that these countries benefit disproportionately from trade with the US due to lower tariffs on their exports compared to US goods in Asia, a concept tied to his reciprocal trade philosophy. Trump frequently claimed that foreign nations had cheated the US for decades through unfair trade practices, including currency manipulation, subsidies, and non-tariff barriers. These tariffs are clearly for leverage, and Trump is counting on these countries to work with him to get these new tariffs removed. His administration claims that 50 of these countries are already doing so, including Japan and China. These countries can either stop their own tariffs on US goods, or their companies can build plants on US soil and avoid the tariff altogether. Many Japanese automakers like Honda, Toyota, Nissan, and Hyundai already have American plants, and have been for decades while also having their own in Japan. So they wouldn't be affected. This is about the countries that want to make all the money possible at our expense. The tariffs will start on April 9th, but I would expect new deals to happen shortly after that. If the Switch were to cost $500, $600, $700, I would not blame Trump, I would blame Nintendo not willing to take the risk and doubling down on caring more about profit margins than price parity with other regions. Launching the console with that high price tag would not be a good look for them, and some consumers don't even like the $449 price already. Nintendo is the wealthiest company in Japan right now. They can afford to take a small hit somewhere until Japan and China sort this global trade thing out.